We are from Poland and we travel around Europe visiting places important for European heritage, including those related to its very ancient history and prehistory. Today we are at a megalithic site near Antequera in Andalusia in Spain. The place is extremely interesting. There are 3 megalithic tombs, astronomically related, although the time of their creation was very distant. The first was created in the Neolithic and the last in the Bronze Age. Neolithic is the first period in the history of humanity when people started to build something themselves in spiritual matters, still very much embodied in the landscape, but it is no longer like entering caves into a natural environment. We began to interfere with the natural life of animals and plants. That is, we restricted the free movement of animals and ate animals with characteristics that we did not want to preserve, and left those with desirable characteristics. Plants. We collected seeds of those with useful characteristics. It must have been connected with a spiritual change. In the Neolithic period, we also started building what seemed like artificial caves inside artificial hills, like the Dolmen de Menga. We began to change nature, and from the Neolithic period we began to construct our living environment. Dolmen de Menga, the famous one, is 6,000 years old. It is 30 meters long, about 50 meters wide and 4 meters high. It is famous for having one of the largest burial chambers in Europe. One boulder covering part of the ceiling of the chamber weighs 180 tons. Well, it wasn't lying there. It was carried up the hill and placed at the destination. Dolmen de Menga stands on the top of a small natural elevation, and in its heydays the tomb takes on the appearance of an artificial hilltop. Today it is not covered with as much earth as in the Neolithic. The artificial slopes of the tomb and the natural slopes of the hill formed a harmonious continuum, and visitors in the old days hardly appreciated the difference between one and the other. The Dolmen de Menga is referred to as a tomb, and burials were usually found in structures of this type. It is interesting that no burials were found in this dolmen. Whether they were there or not is hard for me to say. It is a dolmen with an unusual location. In fact, it seemed obvious that it should be positioned relative to the sun during one of the solstices, but it is not quite so. Why is it not aligned with the sun during the solstice? Well, because it is important that his exit should be directed towards the mountain or rock that resembles the profile of lying, sleeping, perhaps dead woman turned towards the sky. On its slopes there are rock niches in which paintings from the same time as the dolmen were found. Very formulaic, very simple, very blurred. Nevertheless, they are there. Some say they can be seen as people dancing.
Bienvenido al Dolmen de Menga, el dolmen más grande de todo el megalitismo. Entre sus bloques de piedra, entre sus grandes megalitos de piedra, tenemos piedras de hasta 180 toneladas, las piedras más pesadas movidas a la prehistoria por tracción humana. En la pirámide de Keops, en la gran pirámide de Giza, El peso más pesado de las piedras son entre 60 y 62 toneladas. En Menga, 1800 años antes que en Keops, movimos piedras que multiplicaron por 3 el tamaño de la más pesada en la Gran Pirámide. El único dolmen con un pozo en su interior, un pozo de época neolítica, un pozo ceremonial que la profundidad del pozo es exactamente la longitud del dolmen. Una estructura hidráulica sin parangón, sin ningún parecido a ningún otro dolmen. El único dolmen con pilares, con columnas. La primera vez que construye el humano con pilares sería en el dolmen de Menga. Luego vendrían los templos en Mesopotamia y en Egipto, pero la primera vez es en Menga, en el dolmen más grande del mundo.
Gracias.
¿Lo subtitula?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Muchas gracias.
During the summer solstice, the sun's rays fall on this place, and it's quite an interesting story because at the same time the sun is not opposite the entrance, but they come diagonally here, and at the same time you can see the head of the sleeping woman. The dolmen illuminated by the rays of the rising sun on the solstice is in 3 colors: black on the ceiling, ochre-covered walls and columns. By the way, these columns are called Menga, hence the name, Dolmen de Menga. Then they were used in Babylonia. But the first evidence of such construction of columns supporting the ceiling comes from here. It is the first known construction of this type. When we look towards the exit from the dolmen again, your eyes will of course be drawn to an unusual rock in the distance. Once we look at it, we can notice on one of the stone slab, on one of the orthostats, quite characteristic depressions, the so-called cupolas, which we have already mentioned even in the case of Neanderthals. The name comes from the shape of the cup. Next, on the slabs at the entrance, there are mysterious engravings, schematic, symbolic. Similar ones are found in rock niches and on rock formations such as the one visible from the entrance to the dolmen. Returning to the orientation of the megaliths. Utilitarian astronomical orientation. It seems to me that 2 sticks are enough for astronomical observations. I'm serious. I mean, the Greeks and even the Babylonians managed just fine without carrying multi-ton boulders. And they had a pretty good model. Well, it seems that there is no point in making such an effort. Well, it's better to sit down, drink, eat and rest instead of carry almost 1,000 tons of boulders, as is the case with the Dolmen de Menga. The reason for building these structures must have been something other than practical, even if, when building them, people also took into account the astronomical solstices. Although the dolmens from this site have been created about 6,000 years ago, Dolmen de Menga, however, they were used until some 3,000 years ago by various communities. About 70 meters from this dolmen there is another one, Dolmen de Biera. It is a bit younger than the Dolmen de Menga, but nevertheless astronomically connected to it. The sun enters the Dolmen de Menga on the morning of the summer solstice. The sun enters the Dolmen de Biera on the spring and autumn equinoxes. The rising sun shines deep inside. This dolmen does not face any rock, mountain or other object. there is a burial chamber inside. Interestingly, on the day of equinox or on any other day, the sun does not look into this burial chamber. I assume this is done intentionally. About 4 kilometers from the Dolmen de Menga and de Biera, there is Tolos el Romeral, which is astronomically connected with them. It is built several hundred years later than those dolmens. What does Tholos mean? This is the type of construction with a characteristic dome inside, which wasn't made of huge boulders, but of small stones. However, the Tholos el Romeral is covered with slabs in many parts, rather in corridor. So this Tholos comes probably from the transitional period or refers in style to the two dolmens with which it is associated. And there is an additional small burial chamber at the back, next to the large hall covered with a dome. From the entrance you can see El Torcal mountain. The sun rises there, illuminating the corridor at the winter solstice. There are caves inside the mountain and it is visible that people visited El Torcal and its caves during the time when the Tholos was used. There are evidences that they performed rites no longer known to us, and some carvings were found there. While we are on the subject of engravings and astronomical alignments of megaliths, let us move for a moment to the other end of Spain, to the area of the unique archaeological site of Atapuerca. More about Homo antecessor another time, but for now let's look at the Neolithic dolmen de Cubilejo de Lara. It is much smaller than those around Antequera, but still has a characteristic long corridor and the remains of a circular chamber. Four skeletons were discovered there. They were accompanied by grave goods, the most interesting of which is probably a bracelet made of shells from the Mediterranean Sea. And for those who want to match this burial to one of the Neolithic cultures, I will add that there were also remains of a bell cap. At the entrance to the chamber, on the wall there are preserved carvings of simple animal silhouettes and some unknown symbol or something resembling a fish spine. During the winter solstice and a few days after it, the first rays of the rising sun first fall into the main chamber and then illuminate the slab and carved animals and symbols. We will end today's episode with this dolmen from northern Spain. The past is gone, but the mystery remains. And mystery is something that definitely attracts us to such places. Thanks for watching, please subscribe to not miss other videos and till the next time, bye bye!